Hey everyone, this is Jason with Summit Initiative, and you're about to watch a video or listen to a podcast uh, of a conversation with a dear friend of mine, Chris Swan. He's a counterpart in ministry in Summit Initiative, and it's an incredible story of how God used Summit to address some childhood hurts that Chris had endured, and how God then used it to start to affect everyone around him, including his family and in his marriage. It's just a really encouraging story. I hope that you are as encouraged as I was as you listen to it. If you like these stories, you go a long way to help support us and encourage us to give us a like, subscribe, and share with your friends and family. And we hope to do a lot more of these in the near future. So until then, I hope you enjoy.
Let's start off by asking, what was your first experience like with Summit?
I knew that Jason was doing some outreach of some type with the military, and because I had been prior military, I had referenced, hey, if ever there's anything I can tag along on or whatever, I love that community, so let me know. And then sure enough, I think I caught wind that there was another one coming up or something, so I'm pretty sure I reached out, and then he said, hey, I got space, come on. So I went on one of those weekends and thought I was going to hear about certain things from God. I had my list, told him, go ahead and take your best shot. I'll make myself available this weekend.
Nice.
And he didn't talk to me about anything on my list. He chose to start with his own list.
That's pretty awesome. I remember that. Riding in the car
Totally.
down there
Yeah.
on the way down. That's awesome.
Yeah.
What
And
do
then
you
we
think?
didn't, I don't even remember what we talked about on the way back on that car ride. I kind of do. I kind of don't. I think we talked broader. I probably was still talking about um, maybe just some of the people I had met and some of those kind of interactions. Yeah,
Yeah,
so it wasn't
there's
until
definitely a debrief, like definitely a debrief coming back as to like, hey, here's
yeah, just
what
the
it was, the
event
experience was
in
like.
general, right? But it wasn't until the following week when we went out to coffee, and then you were like, "Hey, we haven't had a chance to catch up for how it went, for you. So how did it go?" And I'm like, "I'm a mess." That's what that revealed to me. And then and then you quickly just go, "You want to do this with me?" I'm like, No. This just
Not a
showed me
chance.
how disqualified I am. I'm not
That's
even sure I
awesome.
should have been a pastor all these years. I got some issues.
I got stuff to work out. I'm like,
Yeah.
perfect. So do I. Let's do it. Oh
Yep. Yeah.
man.
You were like, yeah, I'm just up ahead. Yeah. Come on. You got to be wrecked by this in order to be used. Yeah.
What do you think God was showing you in that first, that kind of first experience?
It definitely was related to my childhood and related to just the fact that I had lived through my childhood, and I thought I had processed it all as I went through. And I did. I was processing as I was going through, but I was processing as a child. And so he wanted to take me back through and have me now process that more as an adult and really the full effects of it, and then kind of mourn it all properly. And so yeah, I went down the road for 6 months of just really having to keep going through my story, especially since I joined you in this, and that made me process it over and over and over and over and over again. And really, that worked out like counseling for me. Some people go to a counselor. I ended up joining Summit and having to go through my story over again and listen to other people's stories and just continue to gain perspective that God wanted to give me that I desperately needed.
That's awesome. 6 months.
6 months of brutal, gut punching, horrible weeping, cry at the drop of a hat, hear a song on the radio, smell a smell in the air, you know. Um, yeah, really difficult.
It's just cool to to be on that journey with you as God was kind of working things out from a childhood stuff. And I know that kind of, as you got through that 6 months, he started moving more into different pieces of your life, right?
Oh
Like it
yeah.
wasn't
Yeah.
just that he kind of worked
Marriage.
through the
No,
childhood.
no,
Yeah, but he,
no. And it wasn't just his prompting. I mean, it had started through my wife, and she had already been poking the bear for a couple of months beginning. This is 2020. So 2020 kicked off with poking the bear as to why was I so angry? Why was I so um, shut off? Why was I so controlling and smothering and all these uh, characteristics that weren't very becoming of a loving Christian husband and father. And at first I'm just denying and deflecting and minimizing all of it because I don't believe it to be true. I think that I'm completely the sold out husband and the way committed father. And look, I'm sitting in my kids' room with the bunk beds. I still put boys to bed every night. I've been putting kids to bed for 25 years. So I think that I'm all in, more all in than most guys I meet. And there was my wife and my family telling me that the problem is me, is that I'm the one who's so bristly. I'm the one who's pushing everybody away. I'm the one who's just uh, a control freak and hurting everybody, and they're all wounded. Um, and when I try to get closer, they just have that scared look of like, oh my gosh, he's going to wound me again. So yeah, it was horribly confronting. And of course, like the scene in the garden, I'm hiding. I'm hiding from God in his pursuit of me. I'm hiding from my family's pursuit of me because I'm full of shame and guilt, and I don't know how to rid myself of that. So I just hold on tighter, thinking if I hold on, we'll make it through whatever this storm is. But this was a storm that only Jesus could calm, and he's asleep in the boat right now, and he's letting it roar. And there's nothing I can do about it except I can either just continue to look at him and see that for some reason he has a calm, like he knows where this is going, or I have a fate that, you know, I've only dreamt about. And for all I know, I'm about to get bucked over the sideboard, and maybe I'll get swallowed up by a fish if he has a desire to save me. Maybe I won't. And maybe I'm the lost at sea in the wreckage. And that's how my story finishes. I don't know, but I definitely know that over those next months, he was calling me to completely die to myself and anything I had thought um, I had done well or accomplished or whatnot. That was disturbing. Probably because 2020 I'm turning 50, married for 28 years, got 4 kids. There's plenty of thoughts that guys have at 40, 50 years old about what have I accomplished? What have I done? Is it enough? Is this what I thought I was going to do? You've got that just in your fleshly nature, but then I've got the spiritual side mixed in with having served the Lord as a pastor and having had given up a lot of things in life in order to stay serving. Um, Somehow I still thought that added up to something, but he was really quick to say that first retreat, he was really quick to say, "Hey, so you're 50 and this is what you built. Cool. How about I lead now?" He wasn't like super condescending, but it was about that abrupt with the this is what you built. No sense going back over that. Let's let's switch it up a little bit here. I won't belabor what has gone on, but I am going to crush it.
yeah.
So you can
Mm.
either meet me halfway on that and fall in love with the idea that I want to wipe some things out. I want to take those thoughts, those ideas, those pursuits, those whatever things you think you've been doing, building, whatever. I want to take them off the table, um, and I'm going to. And so you can either, wrap your head around that and start to submit to that, or you might not like how it goes. And I didn't like how it went anyways, even though, man, I was desperately trying to let go as quick as I could. It's unreal how much of a grip um, my own nature had on how the tapes were all playing. I mean, the narrative that gets quickly spun within my own mind is just boggling. Um, but as God began to unpack things then over those next 6 months, just in my own childhood story, um, it did slow down the way my brain and my heart were processing to a pace that I didn't even know was possible, which I know helped the changes happen. Um, I think we're too quick to try to always switch gears and hurry up and get on to the next thing. There was no way to hurry up and get on to the next thing. I literally had most days just enough breath to make it through that day, and that was it. And if the sun didn't come up and Jesus wasn't king the next day, then that would have been my last, over and over and over again. Uh, so grateful.
There's this guy that we would climb mountains with on occasion, and and he was notorious for sneaking rocks into people's bags down at the
Mm,
parking lot. So he would, if you weren't looking, he would come in and he'd grab some big rock sometimes and just like tuck him in. And then you'd pick that pack up. You're like, man, this thing feels heavy, but whatever is heavy, we're going to take it up to base camp. And then he would just let it ride for hours. Like
mm.
he did, and it's just like, and if you're listening to this podcast, you know exactly who you are. And there are people who know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Um,
totally.
yeah, yeah. So, but I felt like it's funny is like as I'm carrying stuff up and I'm realizing or I'm watching other people open their packs as we get to base camp, pulling rocks out of their bag. They've carried this burden up this mountain for absolutely no reason. Right there, it is completely pointless. And all it took was like take a peek in the pack and see what you're carrying, and you would realize, oh, I don't need to carry this. And I think that's right. Like when you were saying that, I'm like, that's the analogy that pops in my mind. Like we're carrying this stuff. And it just weighs us down, man.
That's it.
And
That's
it
it.
ruins the journey, or it puts extra
That's it.
burden on the journey. And you're just like, I want to be free to enjoy this for all that it is, because we only get one shot at it. So why
That's
are we
it.
carrying this stuff?
When did you start to see things get better?
I could tell things were changing internally and externally. You probably could tell things were changing in me. Um, my wife and my kids could tell things were changing because I was trying to apply even just tips and tricks that we teach through the story training, on how to listen and how to respond to people and make them feel validated and heard, um, and that was helping obviously especially between my wife and I and my kids, um, and really just in anyone I would come in contact with. I know that they were feeling like I was more there and with and engaged with them. So those were great things to learn, as well as learning how to give a real apology and say I'm sorry and actually own things. That was something I thought I had always been good at. I just didn't realize that, the way I had always done that was more in defense of myself and my actions. And so I totally just stole the opportunity to set people free in my apologies by then explaining why I had done what I had done. And it took me forever to realize that the explaining was actually ruining the apology. Um, and I needed to just shut up after I said the words "I'm sorry." I did that, and then let them enjoy that for a minute. Even though I was changing a lot, probably internally and externally, I was trying to um, let it play out. the wounds for some of the people around me, especially my wife, were so deep that there's just way too much of a catalog historically, um, for her to quickly say, "Oh my gosh, look at all the change," and like hurry up and get on down the road. That
She's
wasn't
on a journey
happening.
as well, right? She's on a
Oh
journey as
yeah,
well.
yeah.
Yeah.
She's on the journey to heal, but she has to heal amidst the one who hurt her. Which I mean, gosh, God's grace on me. It's worth referencing that because she gets so much of the credit outside of the Lord. Nobody has had a greater impact on me than Susan, and yeah, I can just remember, unfortunately for her, there were times in conversation she would literally have to say to me, she would say, "This is going to pain me to do this, but uh, here is what I need you to say back to me so that I feel like you heard me." And she would literally give me the words to say, and I would say them back. It was like I was a toddler, learning to do something for the first time. And mama said, do it like this. And
She's
so then I
teaching
had to
you.
do
Yeah.
it like this. And she'd go, well, it's better than nothing.
Oh
I'm going to
man.
take that and
Oh
let's
man.
just stop for right now and
Yeah.
go about something else. But it's seriously what I needed. God gifted her with being the counselor at the same time of being my wife. And I'm just so lucky that I had somebody that, one of her gifts is definitely restoration of broken things. Doesn't matter what it is, she likes to fix broken things. It's just, I
Yeah.
don't think when she signed on to this marriage, she knew that it was like the biggest thing she was ever going to help fix was going to be her husband. Like, that just sounds like a
Oh
raw
man.
deal.
She, oh man.
And first,
That's
she was going to
amazing.
have to taste the depth at which he was going to
Mm,
be broken and live through it for a long 28 years of marriage,
yeah.
before
Yeah.
any fix started to happen. So 6 months of me processing my childhood and her and I just going through it and at it. And then 3 months of going through our marriage stuff at a lot deeper level. When finally I had processed enough of the kid stuff, it's like he moved me on. And then we got way deeper on the marriage stuff. That was horrible to have to see how hurt my wife had been by me. Um and but there was a time where there was just some massive breakthrough, and it mainly came, the summary would be, it mainly came when I could finally see that I was the root for her hurt, genuinely, and genuinely own that. Because that's when I learned, that you can't apologize for anything you don't own. Yet, it's like when we're parenting, we do that all the time to our kids, and we tell them things like, "Hey, you need to say you're sorry," but they're not sorry. So just telling them to say they're sorry fixes nothing, and it's they don't feel they're sorry. But we make them do it, and then we make
Jump
the
through
other
the
kid
hoops and
say, "Yeah, say I forgive you," and it's like, but they don't forgive them yet because they know the kid doesn't feel that they're sorry. Like, you know, it's
sure.
ludicrous.
Yeah.
So we're reinforcing kind of bad behavior. And
Yeah.
through this whole process in 2020, I discovered, um, the ownership is so critical to the apology, that you can't apologize for anything you don't first own as yours. You're lying at that point, and
Yeah.
you're just giving fluff words. And I was I was king at that. I was king at that because I didn't want to hurt. And so if my wife brought up something that hurt her, I took that like, wait a second, potentially you're talking about something that could erode our marriage. That can't be true. I don't want to be I grew up in a broken family. I'm not going to have a broken marriage. No way. So this is a threat, rather than she was just doing the Christian thing of saying we're supposed to root out sin in our
Yeah.
life.
Talk
So
about it.
could we do
Yeah.
that together and go to Jesus
Yeah.
together? She
Yeah.
wasn't bringing it up to cause pain and blame. She was voicing her pain. And sure, I was to blame, but that's sin at work in me. And she was never condemning and judging me for that, which was unreal. I mean, she seriously stood with
Yeah.
steadfast love and just said, "It's sin at work. I know that. I didn't know that. I was threatened." The little boy in me who had lost love at a young age was still just perpetually afraid that I was going to lose love again. And here was God through my wife trying to show me what actual true love was. And the love that he was trying to give me all along through the love of Jesus, um, had been being displayed through my wife. I I was so proud. I didn't interpret her love as Christ's love. I separated her love from Jesus's love. So I had Jesus in a different category than my wife, which is horrible as well. It's like saying I really do love God more than I love my wife, and it's yet I live every day with my wife. Like, I think the reality is we love ourselves probably the most. Then we love the people that we do life with second. Then we love God, um, because we don't get that. We need that constant interaction to
Yeah.
have love reinforced. You know, yet in our high spirituality, we say we love God the most, and then we say we love our family, and then we say we love ourselves. Yet, you know, it's probably just even Ephesians 5 of, you look in the mirror and you love yourself. Like, so now husbands love your wife like Christ loves the church. Like, he doesn't even tell us in that line to say, now love me first and then love your wife. He's like,
Yeah.
you already love yourself too much. Try
Yeah.
to go love your wife, would you? Jeez. When I finally owned my stuff, then I could apologize. And then when I did, Susan could then forgive me. And then she didn't just offer me forgiveness for those current topics we were working through. She literally offered me forgiveness for the whole 28 years, is what she said. That's like Christian lottery right there. I mean, it just doesn't happen. And when that happened, I it all came full circle. God used her offering me that to break down the wall that the childhood fear of losing love again. He used her in that moment to heal that wound. And then that fear began to totally just go away. I finally felt wholly loved for the first time in my that I could ever remember, ever since, you know, ever since my parents split when I was 10. It's like it all had come rushing back to me. And I finally felt like a whole human being capable of being loved and loving. And I didn't even know that that was missing in my life.
What an incredible story of just God's faithfulness to you and then through Susan and even the kids too, because I know you have some of those stories with the kids where they would come and do that same interaction or similar interaction with you
Mhm,
about like this forgiveness piece towards
mhm,
dad.
mhm.
So amazing, man. So amazing. How are things now? Like, how has that changed, um, marriage, family, things like that? What does it look like now? Not that everything's perfect, obviously, but
Oh, sure. No, but the best now is, I say now, the best now is just the testimony of my wife. Because I think that she had been the truth teller. And so for her to say truthfully that she has joy and that she enjoys me and that things are fun uh, and it wasn't that long ago that she said, and we're on the other side. We've come through the valley. When she says that, then I know. I maybe had been feeling it, but I had to be slow, to proclaim that. Um, I needed my wife to be at that place. And so she's at that place, which means I'm extremely happy. I'm happy for her. And obviously I'm happy for myself. And I'm just grateful that he continues to heal all the broken things, and it has turned my spirituality inside out. Sometimes things go by so quick. You're like, oh my gosh, did you see that? It's like being on a road trip with somebody, and they're like, no, I didn't see that. And you're like, but you don't turn around to show them, even though you're like, it was so amazing. Like, and then you just tell them about it, but you never like go, why don't we just take 2 seconds and whip around and I show it to you?
Yeah.
And, God slowing down my processing has made me slow down a lot more on the road of life and go, I don't want to just punch the gas. I know where this is headed, so I know I can't just hit the brake and think that I get to freeze time. That's not what's going on either. You got to live it in reality. And reality says I'm not promised any tomorrows. I got today. Um so what am I going to do with today? And yeah, I'm less anxious about a million things and how it all unfolds, and I'm not anxious about, being in my 50s and what do I got, what have I done, and what have I accomplished. That's that stuff's not worth me spending my time on. So I don't spend my time on that, and I just try to be real and be present and live today as full as I can and give myself even grace, you know, that I'm not knocking it out of the park every day. I'm not just sitting here cranking home runs for Jesus type of stuff. I'm just a
Sure.
person, yeah,
Yeah.
whipping through. Yeah.
Cranking home runs for Jesus, dude. That right in and of itself should be like trademarked. I love it. Oh man, who would have thought that a simple invitation to like, hey, would you come and hang out with some soldiers
Hmm.
would
Yeah.
would like lead to. I
Yeah.
mean, it was. Well, I had no clue. You had no clue. I think we were having coffee, and
No.
you're like, "Hey, what are you up to?" And I said, "Well, hey, come with me
Yeah.
to some hang out with soldiers. You're a Navy guy. They're Army.
Yeah.
They'll make fun of you.
Yeah.
You can make fun of them, right? Like it'll be a good
We're
time."
smarter. Right.
No
Right.
clue, no clue what God was like doing. As he was at work, and it's incredible to see how we stumble into God's plan. I think more than we ever intentionally walk into it, and it's his fruit through us, right, versus our fruit. I love what you said before. It's like, hey, I see what you got to offer, Chris. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. He sort of was like,
yeah,
and
yeah. Let's take this apart and put it back together the right way. You're like, what?
let's turn the page. Yeah,
Yeah.
shall we? Let's go to the next
Oh,
chapter. We've already read that
that's
story. Yeah.
that's funny. I had this memory pop up where you were talking about when I was in Mississippi when I was a kid, and my grandparents were building their house, and I really wanted to help them because I wanted my fingerprints on it, right? So my grandpa said, "Hey, why don't you put up this piece of drywall?" And it was before they used screws; it was nails. And so I put up this piece of drywall and I'm hammering the nails in, but I've never really done this before. So when you look at the drywall, when it's all done, I wish we'd have taken a picture of it. It was demolished. I demolished that wall. Half the nails weren't even in all the way. They were like bent over and I just smashed them into the wall. And he comes down and I'm so proud. I'm so proud. I go down and I'm like, I did it, Grandpa. And he just looked at me like, yeah, yeah. I mean, that was that
Mhm,
moment of God going, I see what
mhm,
you've done.
mhm.
Like
I see what you
we're
did.
gonna have to, and
I'll
then when I
be
came
mudding
back,
and taping that one.
yeah, when I came back the next day, the drywall was perfect, and I think he had covered it up. He just went another sheet over top.
Mm,
Really good insulation in that room. But yeah, it was. I love that God is faithful in all that stuff. And we just don't know what He's doing, and so there's always hope, right? Because He's
yeah.
always been faithful. He's been faithful to this point in our lives and in our families, and what makes us think he's not going to continue to be faithful, even though there's really difficult things that he has to do sometimes in order to bring about that wholeness and that restoration that we're hoping for.
Abs- Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah. I think a critical piece probably to the change and the healing too was the fact that having to dwell within Summit and continue to go through the My Story training and continue to work it out with you and I, it made us as well have to talk, interact, and work in a more honest way than most other workplaces can ever
Sure.
even hope to exist, including the church. We could both say that after years of being in the church. And I love that, if we fast forward 4 years later, I love that we've been able to take that way of doing things out to the different people groups that we serve, and we've modeled that so many different times, and we've also then experienced the absence of that usually when we
Sure.
go out in these other scenarios too. But I know that what it in a really humbling way, we don't go out and try to fix everybody's stuff, even though we go, gosh, they could do that differently, or whoa, did you see that, did you hear that? We don't do that. We catch all that stuff in real time, but I've noticed that what we even attempt to do is we attempt to just um, live out the practice principles, even right there in real time, conversationally with those folks, um, rather than offer to fix or anything else. We just continue to just do it, and now it just more is just it's second nature to just be that way in and around people. I think it's a pretty phenomenal thing that really is Summit. I love seeing other people experience that and then be kind of blown away, and then us to just kind of go, well, actually, the secret sauce, we already taught it and gave it to you if you've come through the My Story training. You
That's
just need
it.
to keep living and applying those things, and you too can have a work environment like that. Like, it's not actually that hard. It just
Yeah.
got to let go of yourself a little bit more.
Yeah. No, it's I love seeing the fruit of what God is doing. I mean, I have a document over here that's probably I printed it off. I print it off like once a year just to kind of keep it up to date, but
Mm,
I probably have 600. I mean, it's almost 100 pages long, 500 to 600 responses of people saying like, "Hey, this is what God is doing," while
mhm.
you were just demonstrating, like again, we're never trying to change. We can't change ourselves. I mean, that's the point of these stories. Like
Yeah,
you're going to lay
yeah.
out and just let God do his work. So we're not going to come in and go, well, now we have the answer. We don't have the answer. He's the answer. It's trust. Like, would you trust him? Or would you continue to walk toward him instead of away from him? And continue to walk in humility, recognizing that he's the one who changes us. We can't change ourselves. I think it was Brendan Manning. He, in one of his books, had said he was in counseling for something, and the counselor asked him to write a letter to himself, kind of his younger self, and he was doing it, and he named it, I think, "Letter to an Imposter," is what he said. And he starts the letter off with, "Hey, I just want to thank you." And so he's thanking his younger self. He goes, I needed you to survive. And you did what you needed to do to get through the tough stuff. And without you, I wouldn't be here now.
Mm,
And then he goes in, transitions in the letter, and he starts to say, but now you're getting in the way. Now you're holding me back
mm,
from all that God has for me and the freedom that he has
mm.
for me. And so I don't need you anymore. And that's kind of like when you were saying that, I'm like, that's it right
Wow,
there. It's like, hey, I don't need
that's
you
amazing.
anymore. I don't need you
Yeah,
anymore. Like I'm a
that
different person.
that's really good.
So I
That's it.
love, man, it just your story is super encouraging. And I know um you've shared your story so many times. We've recorded it through the e-course, right? So if people want to hear your story, you're gonna have to go to the e-course and listen to it. It's awesome and incredible, and God has done amazing things. I just want to thank you for just continually trusting God, and I get to see it. I get to be witness to it, and I feel like we get these like front row tickets to the story God's
Mhm,
telling through you and Susan and the family, and I think vice versa, right? Like
mhm.
we
Yeah,
get to
yeah.
see we're kind of all on this journey of going, we don't really know what we're doing. We don't really know what God is up to, but we're just going to keep walking with him, and we're going to keep trusting him, and we're going to see, like at the end of the day, I suspect and I hope and pray that when we enter God's kingdom, that there will be people who come up to us and go, hey, you don't know me, but
Mhm.
Like you
Mhm.
did the same for my dad or my grandpa, whatever. And
Mhm.
look, I'm here. Like I'm here because of
Mhm.
what
Amen.
God has done through your simple, clumsy obedience. You're like,
That's
Lord,
it.
if you can use a couple guys like us, then you can,
That's it.
you can, there's hope for everyone.
That's
So
it.